Hey guys, welcome back to Bullhornbeach. Let's talk about the bow drill. I've been practicing the bow drill lately. I've had some success with the cedar wood. First off, I'm not a survival instructor, so I'm not going to teach you, or I'm not going to advise you that this is the way to do it. Let's get that out of the way up front. I've had some comments before on how terrible my advice is. That's not what this is. If you're new to the bow drill, maybe I can show you something that will help you along the way. But basically, I just want to show you what I have learned with my experiences, and towards the end of this, more or less, I want some of you guys to critique what I am doing and tell me what I can do better along the way. I'm going to kind of do this beginning to end, cradle to grave type of thing. I've already got my pieces cut out, so we're not going to go that far back. But let's start with the pieces that you need to make a bow drill. First of all, you need a bow, okay? I probably cut this piece of cedar 10 years ago. I don't know how long I've had it. I've had it a long time, and that piece of paracord has also been on there a long freaking time. I've restrung it several times. All I do is I have wrapped it around the end. I put a notch in the end to kind of hold it in place. You put the knot on there that works for you. That's got a loop in it that's looped over into the notch. It works for me. Do what works for you. This end, I've wrapped it around several times. It kind of like provides a handle for it. This piece goes all the way through to this end, and then it's wrapped around it to kind of like hold it in place. It's loose. I don't care. It still works. Okay, that's my bow. You need a spindle, and you need a hearth board, okay? I've used this one twice. I've gotten a coal out of both of those. These both came from the same stick, which I cut off of a standing cedar, but this was a dead piece. The first time I used it, I did still see some moisture in this first hole. It worked anyway. That just tells you, that's a testament as to how good cedar actually works. The first hole, I got a coal within about 150 strokes after the burn-in. The 150 strokes does not count the burn-in. The second hole, I did the burn-in. That one probably took me closer to 400 to 500 strokes. I don't know why it took longer, but it did. Maybe I just didn't give it as much effort. But it took a lot longer to get a coal that time. Once I hit 150 forward strokes, I usually quit because I'm worn out at that point, and I will let that sit there. I will let the dust sit there. I don't disturb it, except maybe to move it out of the way, and that way some oxygen can get to it the next time I go to it to give it another 150 strokes. We'll get to that in a minute. And the 150 is forward strokes, not backward strokes. So what I mean by that is when I push the bow forward, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we'll get to that in a moment. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna start another hole. I'm gonna do another burn-in. Is just where you take your spindle and you put it in and you mate the two pieces of wood together. It looks the same as when you're trying to start a coal. It's just a burn-in process to get things started. Another piece that you need is a bearing block. What I have is a purchased piece by a company called Essie, and this has a divot in there which you put on top of your spindle, okay? It's also high carbon steel, so it'll throw a spark off of it. If you're using char cloth, that's another video. A lot of people like to be more traditional, and they will use a block of wood or a rock on top for the bearing block. This gives you a little bit better chance of things working because it doesn't create as much friction on top of your spindle. And then I just use a glove to hold on to it up top to keep from getting my hand too hot. One other thing you need is some people call it a welcome mat. You can use a leaf, a piece of bark, anything that's not wet. What you do is you put your hearth board on top of your welcome mat, and then when you start spinning your spindle, your dust falls on top of the welcome mat, and that's where you end up generating a coal. So we're gonna put all this together, see if we can't generate a coal today. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start another hole right about here in the center of my hearth board with my knife. Just got to be careful. Don't want to cut my finger open. Okay, we're getting a hole started in there. I realize I have the camera backwards and you really can't see what I'm doing, but it is no more than starting a divot, kind of in the center of my hearth board. If your hearth board is larger, wider than what mine is, you kind of want to get a measurement with your spindle. I think the distance you want to be is about 1.5 spindles away from the edge of your hearth board. And for me, about the center of my hearth board is the correct distance. This is the burn-in process. Before I do that though, you'll notice I've got the string of the bow a little bit higher on the spindle. I have had better luck with that than I do if I put it low on the spindle. A couple of reasons. One, the bow ends up hitting my foot. Two, once you start really grinding down on this spindle and trying to get it going, if the string is down low, it tends to want to push the spindle out away from the hearth board, and it just kicks it out. So I like to try to keep the string up higher on the spindle if I can. Okay, so this is just the burn-in process. It's mating the two pieces of wood together. There's nothing special going on here, but I'm just going to try to get the two pieces of wood kind of looking alike. Yes, that's an annoying noise. I've had enough of it. Okay, you can see the spindle is burned. We got to get that cleaned off. The hearth board is putting out decent dust right now. It's kind of a reddish color because of the wood. We're going to set all that aside. I'm going to prop it up on the bow so hopefully the wet ground doesn't make it any wetter. I'm going to get our saw out. We're going to cut our notch in the hearth board to make it look like these others. That's where the dust is going to fall down. I'm also going to get my knife out and make this hearth board thinner than what it is because it's quite thick on this side. Something else I've seen people do, whether this helps or not, is on the bottom, they carve out a little extra area to let oxygen slip in there a little bit better. Sometimes I think that just fills up with dust, and so I'm not convinced that that actually helps. Right there and right there. It may just be area that you have to put more dust in to get it to fill up, but we'll try it and see. Got like a yellow jack or something buzzing around me now. Hope he goes on his way. So the next step is cleaning off the, got something on my phone, I don't know what that is. Cleaning off the tip of the spindle. Since we did our burn-in, this is like fire hardened now. We'll clean that off and get some fresh wood going on it. And this piece, I should have said this up front, this spindle needs to look a lot like the fat #2 pencils that we all used when we were in kindergarten. This end of it that goes against the hearthboard will look like a used eraser end of that pencil. And the other end of it will look like the used lead side of it that you used to write with back when we were in kindergarten. It's sharpened, but it's dull. This is the eraser end, which has been used, so it's rounded and dull. Pointy end down through the string and twist it around. Like that. And then I take my bearing block, need to get my glove on before I do anything. Bearing block on the pointy end, and then the dull end onto the hearth board. Okay, then I'm set and I'm ready. Okay, now that I've got everything set, I'm just going to put my knee or my shin against my forearm, start bearing down on it with light pressure, start getting the stick going. I'll let you know when I actually start counting my strokes. See, it's kind of getting mated up again now. All right, I'm starting to see dust. As I put more pressure, I'll try to say something about that too. Okay, here we go. So 1, 2, light pressure. $20. 30. 50. 60. 70. I'm gonna give it some more pressure here. $100. $150. If it smokes on its own, it's good. It did not smoke on its own. Okay. So, I'm wore out. This bee is driving me crazy. I'm gonna let that sit there, okay? Not gonna touch it. I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna rest a minute. I'm gonna give that another 150 strokes in a minute because now the dust is built up. All I have to do is rebuild the heat. I don't have to rebuild the dust. We'll be back in a second. And by a second, I mean like 5 minutes. Okay, so everything is just how I left it. It's been 5-10 minutes. Got to drink water, feel a little bit refreshed. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my boot on here, try not to move it. Okay. Oh. I'm an old guy too, so this is hard on my bones. But we're gonna try it one more time here. Get everything set and lined up. Get another 150. That's about all I can do, and then I get wore out. That was actually more like 180. But I felt like I could keep going, so I did. Still, not burning though. Not burning on its own. Another break. All right, so this time I'm gonna change it up just a little bit. Instead of going for the 150 strokes, I'm just gonna try to build up the heat faster. We'll see if that works for me. I've still got my dust built up in there. Same amount of dust I had before. I didn't change anything. Hopefully that works. Maybe it's the humidity today. I don't know. I know when it's humid, it's definitely harder to get a friction fire started just because everything is wetter. No excuses, it's just harder. This time I'm just gonna try to give a little more pressure, get my speed going faster, and see if we can just build some heat up quicker. Definitely wore out faster that time. But I think we got it, man. I do see an ember. It is smoking on its own. Okay, so I figured it out. I did that one in about 80 strokes or so. So the trick was to build the heat up faster with shorter strokes. Let me move that camera around here. Now you can see that. You can see that smoking, I'm sure. All right, I'm just gonna let that burn. Thanks guys for watching at Bullhornbeach. Hey, so before I sign out, tell me guys, your bow drill methods. I tried the 150 strokes. Apparently that was not the right solution, and that's what I had been working on. I think I taught myself a lesson today. Tell me what you do. What's your method? I wanna know. I wanna know better ways of doing it. So chime in, let me know. Thanks again guys for watching at Bullhornbeach. We'll see you guys on the next video, man.